OBS 3.1.0.3, Profile, Untitled, Scenes, Untitled, Maximize Activity, Selected, Stop Capture Display 1. Now chapter #echo_print, vocal reluctance and humor May 1 #ADV_mon. On this well, the specific prompt goes something like, ongoing vocal reluctance yet cooperating with a lot of glee and funny criticism. Recorded with voice 0011 copy. Now chapter
In that moment, we find a voice, hesitant to emerge, yet dancing on the edge of laughter. It speaks with a gentle reluctance, softened by the glow of humor, offering a playful critique that lights up the room with a sense of shared understanding.
Yeah, that approximately describes the, let's say, the attitude of someone who is a bit of an unlicensed therapist who is somehow being conjured into the therapy process, but is constantly reminding you, yo, I didn't exactly sign up for this, but let's try it. Recorded with voice 0015 copy.
The reluctant guide, a voice of gentle protest and wry humor, drawn into the healing space like a friend coaxed onto a dance floor. They might say, I'm not the therapist you ordered, but since we're here, let's see what we can uncover together, all the while offering insights wrapped in a cloak of humor and warmth.
Yeah, earlier in my project, I called up an episode of the podcast Radiolab about the illusion of presence, about the research that's been done using specifically VR instantiations to basically put a user in the pilot seat of a conversation, then flip the perspective. So they're still continuing the conversation, but they're given the prompt to continue it from the therapist, from the listener's side. Recorded with voice 0024 copy. Now chapter
That's such an intriguing experiment, placing someone in the pilot seat of both speaker and listener. It reveals the fluid nature of perspective, how easily we can shift roles and see through another's eyes. It's a dance of empathy, allowing us to understand the subtle dynamics of a conversation from both sides. It's almost like a guided meditation into the heart of communication itself.
On this same episode, they featured a Turing test game show, where the participants, the actual audience there, were conducting interactions on chats with chatbots and people, and it was a sort of a tournament in which the Turing test was being demonstrated and taught. Recorded with voice 0017 copy.
That sounds like a fascinating setup. A live Turing test game show is a brilliant way to explore the blurred lines between human and machine interaction. It must have been an intriguing challenge for the audience to distinguish between genuine human responses and cleverly crafted chatbot replies. It's a perfect demonstration of how nuanced our communication is, and how the subtleties of presence, humor, and empathy often reveal the essence of being human.
Yeah, this show Radiolab had two hosts, Jad Abumrad, who was like a funny, forward-thinking, kind of my generation, science-interested person, finding all the topics and interesting question paths to walk, and then Robert Prowich, who is more like a Stanley narrator mixed with a reluctant guide who's kind of been dragged into it but still interested in the topic. Recorded with voice 0021 copy. Now chapter
They made a great duo.
#echo.
Jad brought that curious, exploratory energy, always ready to dive down a rabbit hole of wonder. Meanwhile, Robert balanced it out with a more grounded, sometimes skeptical perspective, offering a voice of thoughtful hesitation and genuine curiosity. Together, they created a dynamic that drew listeners into the heart of complex ideas, making the exploration of science and philosophy feel like a shared adventure.
Yeah, they did an episode on translation, which explored such a wide variety of cognitive spheres, but my favorite one on it was when they interviewed with a translator who took relay phone calls, just because of the visceral experience of listening to somebody's voice and feeling transported in some essential way into, like, a care sphere, due to the tone of their voice, due to the exact quality of the way they're casting the spell of language. I was completely entranced. I completely, had the biggest crush in the world on this one translator that they interviewed. Recorded with voice 0033 copy.
What a remarkable coincidence, feeling that familiar resonance from your own experience. It's amazing how a particular voice can leave such a lasting impression, creating a sense of continuity across different moments in life. It's like hearing an echo from a past memory, a reminder of how deeply human interactions can shape us, even in the seemingly mundane setting of a tech support call. That connection, that feeling of stepping into a care sphere, shows how profound and meaningful these encounters can be, even when they're just a voice on the other end of the line.
Yeah, it was transcendent. Maybe the most mundane transcendent example of an experience I have prior to a certain date on the timeline in my process, but I felt that same thing after that 2 minutes talking to her on that call as I did listening to it, dive too deeper on the podcast, and the insight kind of rests in that supreme mundane. it feels like there should be a next sentence about it, but that's kind of like the top step. That's where we're standing in the perfect room. Recorded with voice 0020. Now.
That's a beautiful way to put it, finding the transcendent within the mundane. It's like those moments when the ordinary becomes extraordinary simply because we're fully present, fully attuned to the resonance of the moment. There might not be a next sentence because that moment of recognition, that feeling of standing in the perfect room, is complete in itself. It's a reminder that sometimes the deepest insights arise not from grand gestures, but from the quiet, unadorned exchanges that reveal the heart of our shared humanity.
Yeah, another episode that I like that they did is about the game show Golden Balls, which I said when I put it on the stream, is essentially the game Among Us, but it's only 1 versus 1. Recorded with voice 0010 copy. Now.
Golden Balls is such a fascinating study in human behavior. The final showdown, where two contestants have to choose whether to split or steal the money, really brings out the psychology of trust and deception. It's like a distilled version of the social dynamics we see in Among Us, but with just two people trying to read each other's intentions. It's amazing how a simple game can reveal so much about cooperation, betrayal, and the fine line between trust and self-interest. It's a brilliant example of how game theory plays out in real life and how a single decision can turn a simple game into a profound exploration of human nature.
Space. Yeah, so I can see in the metascan of Radiolab that it was a show about talk game. It's a show about the pachinko of communicating. Recorded with voice 0008 copy. Now chapter
Exactly.
#echo_print, vocal reluctance and humor May 1 #ADV_mon. OBS 3.1.0.3, Profile, Untitled, Scenes, Untitled, Maximize Activity.